ଚନ୍ଦ୍ରିକା କଣ କଲ୍ କରୁଛି ପଟେ ବା?
अरे बामदेव को शुभुचे
Bamdev sir, Achandi sir. Bamdev sir is there. Bamdev sir.
हाँ बामदेव को कहूचे से सुनु नहीं है
टेक्नोलॉजी प्रॉब्लम
नहीं वॉइस सुन नहीं बामदेव वॉइस सुन नहीं ऑडियो प्रॉब्लम मु आज भी मोर लैपटॉप रो ऑडियो प्रॉब्लम हे गला वीडियो देखला ऑडियो नहीं बामदेव ठीक से या होची वीडियो अच्छी
अरे
ऑडियो
वीडियो सिना गले ऑडियो रहले हबो ऑडियो वीडियो रहले कोन हबो तम मो देखि
मोर आज से हेला गोटा रिहर्सल रे मोर वीडियो हेला ऑडियो हेला बामदेव रो से होची तार वीडियो होची ऑडियो होची
कोन हबो
बामदेव एबे अनम्यूट करो एबे हां एबे
हाँ
अनम्यूट है
हाँ सर सर शुभ सर सर
सुविधा
नमस्कार सर
आओ
कालिका वीडियो पळेला बामदेव मनोज भी अछंते डॉक्टर मनोज दास आउ केजण नमस्कार बढ़िया फीडबैक पठैचंती सेमानकर डाउट जो माने अछंती लेक्चरर जने सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी कोरापुट रो पठैछि मेसेज जे मोर डाउट केते बढ़िया थिला टाइम सीरीज डाटा एनालिसिस रे काली क्लियर हे गेला प्रीतिश बोली गोटे पिला पठैछि लेक्चरर अछि ए भलिया किछि फीडबैक सब आसीछि जो डाउट काली क्लियर हे ए कोन टाइम सीरीज डाटा एनालिसिस मुन्ना मुन्ना सीरियस होने
आपण कहि ताको सीरियस करै दउछु
ए बॉस
से सीरियस
रे भी से ए बॉस ए तो बाबूजी से भी छोटे पिला ताको शिक्षा दवा
ताको मुन्ना को थरे मु कहतली बोले बूढ़ा मास्टर भलिया से होची
Himanshu. Himanshu.
ହିମାଂଶୁ ଅଡିଓ ଅଫ୍ ଅଛି, ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କରିବ।
Himanshu. Himanshu Agrawal. Kindly check the sharing screen option with sir and the annotation maybe.
Already the share screen option is given to sir. Sir is co-host. Sir can share the screen.
Okay, okay.
I have made him co-host. He can share the screen.
Regarding annotation, just do that.
Shall we check the annotation?
Samya sir, Himanshu is requesting annotation option. Participant annotation kindly disable because many times participants are sometimes interrupting using annotation. That's why kindly check annotation for the participant are disable or not. Himanshu, kindly you can say the sir where annotation option and
We can guide, sir. Sir, we can guide you only when you are sharing something on the screen.
Okay. By that time, just wait, sir. Okay.
Sir, while his session starts, while he will be sharing, I can guide him at that time.
Yes, okay, fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, can we start?
Yes.
Himanshu, you can mute all the other participants except.
Yes, everyone is mute.
Yes, yes.
Greetings of the present evening to all the dignitaries who are present in the digital platform of Indian Accounting Association Bhubaneswar branch and also in YouTube and Facebook. On behalf of Indian Accounting Association Bhubaneswar branch, Odisha, I welcome you all to the second day of data analysis workshop on time series and panel analysis. Before proceeding to the second day of our workshop, it is pertinent to inform all regarding our day one, in which Dr. Manoj Kumar Das sir, Associate Professor, Khalid University, Odisha, enlightened us regarding time series analysis, which was highly appreciated by the participants. On behalf of IIA Bhubaneswar, Odisha, on my own behalf, I would like to welcome Professor Ranjan Kumar Sir, President in Accounting Association Bhubaneswar branch, Professor Jayant Kumar Parida sir, special invitee of today's workshop, Dr. Myojan Das sir, research person of today's session, Dr. Ravindra Science sir, General Secretary, IIA Bhubaneswar branch, and other dignitaries who are present in the digital platform. And also, I welcome all the live members of Indian Accounting Association Bhubaneswar branch and the branch and the members of the, including all valuable participants who have joined us today from different parts of our country. Today, we have with us an eminent person who is very much popular, not only in Odisha and India, but also international, who believes in efficiency and with effectiveness, may it be teaching, research, or any assignment. Sir is very much committed about it in true letter and spirit. Along with teaching and research experience of more than 6 years, Sir also held different academic and administrative positions in state and national level. To name a few, Sir held the position of Director Sports Council, Head and Dean PG Department of Commerce, expert member in NAC, NA, advisory member UGC AICT, President of Indian Commerce Association and Commerce Association. Presently, Sir is Director of Quality Assurance, Director School of Commerce and Economics, KIT, DM2B University. He is none other than our beloved teacher, Professor Jayant Kumar Parida sir. Sir, on behalf of Indian Accounting Association Bhubaneswar branch, sir, and on behalf of all participants, I welcome you all to the day 2 of our workshop. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I feel privileged enough to welcome the center of attraction of today's session, Dr. Soumyaranjan Das sir, Associate Professor and Chief of Executive Postgraduate Program, Indian Institute of Management, Indore, Madhya Pradesh. Sir has experience in both teaching and research of more than 10 years in the field of accounting and finance. He is visiting faculty in many institutes like Monash University, Australia, IIM Ensemble. Teaching is not a profession, rather passion for him. He usually spends time in teaching orphan and underprivileged students, which shows his dedication towards the nation. Along with this, Sir has also more than 20 publications in international and national reputed journals. Sir, we are really grateful to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for
so
this
much.
nice introduction.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to call Professor Jan Kumar Parikh sir to address the gathering. Please.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Professor Bal, the President of All India Accounting Association Odisha branch, Professor Soumyaranjan Das, the faculty of IIM and of Indore, all the participants, dear participants, many of our colleagues, many of our students, and many of our is organizing this 2 days webinar on a very pertinent topic of panel data analysis. I being the live member of All India Accounting Association, I personally welcome all of you to my dear participants, friends and colleagues. Friends, you have already completed 1 year and attended the very pertinent topic like time series analysis, and as told by Professor Ball that you have many queries, you have many doubts, and that has already been clarified. And today also, Professor Das is there to check on the another important issue, that panel data analysis. I'm sure both the issues are very relevant for the researchers, for the guides, and for the scholars too. I have been asked by Professor Ravi, the secretary of this Odisha branch Indian Accounting Association, who happens to be our students too. Sir, you have to introduce this research to the participant. I do not know how to introduce when many of the scholars are PhD holders, many of the scholars have more than some gained lot many experience. What best I can share is during my 4 decades of experience as a teacher, as a researcher, and as a supervisor, also as a guide, and in many respects as an examiner, I can, what best do is to share some of my experience and expertise on this field of research. Friends, your generation, I consider you are the best, and you are fortunate enough to be in this century, in the era of information technology. Why I say this? I have something else in my mind. I just go back to the history of my time when none of, I think, many of you must not have born. I am talking of 1980 when I joined as a research scholar in the University of Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. And I completed my PhD in 1985 when hardly few people have done their research, their PhD in the field. The question is why? What was there and what is not, what were not there in my time? Yes, it was a lack of opportunity. Today, you have got ample opportunity in your front. You can believe, I have seen many research scholars, they have taken even 5 to 10 years to complete their PhD. 10 years, a decade. Today, you are free to complete it just after 2 years. You are free to submit your dissertations. In my time, what are there? Nothing was there. Nothing was there means no review of literature, no literatures were available, no PhD theses were conducted, few countable number of theses were available in the library. BHU is one of the best library, but hardly there is a thesis section. But when you go to the commerce section, hardly you will find countable number of PhD theses in commerce. You talk of guide, none, few. When you come to the Odisha in 1980s, there are hardly 3-4 guides were available. Guides were not there. Question is analysis, review of literature. As I told you, if at all you are interested to do, you have to go to the New Delhi ICSR library, be there, stay there, and some facilities were available there, and you can collect some review of literatures. And you know what is going on today, that I should not tell. Click, everything is at your doorstep. As regards to computation part is concerned, when I wanted to go for regression analysis, for one regression, I must have to sit for days together with my friends. And when I wanted to go for a multiple regression, sorry, unfortunately, in BHU, there is a computer center. When I inquired, that they said at least 3-month waiting period is necessary if at all you go for your calculation. Today, this laptop had to stop up laptop. Your mobile is sufficient enough to calculate any sort of calculations, statistical calculations you need, and that can be taken. Let the correction part is concerned. You'll be astonished to know that for typing, we were having manual typing, 6 copies, 1 original, 5 carbon copy. If one mistake is there in one point, instead of A, we typed E, then for 5-6 copies, you have to use your blade, you have to use your ribbon, you have to use your eraser, and again you have to retype in an appropriate place. For one word, not one, for one letter, it takes at least 5 minutes to check it, correct it, and today, not a single second, any moment you can talk up. The thing of the data, availability of data was a major constraint in social science. Today, I think this internet era, data is plentifully available in different forms. Whatever form you want, that you can have it. Then another thing is their analysis of the data. We have at that time hardly there any experts who are assisting us in analyzing the data. But fortunately, today you need not go to anybody else, even to your guide. Your computer, your SPSS package, your R package, your many statistical packages are there to help you, assist you to analyze your data and coming with the conclusions. Next one is concern about the findings. Findings, a major portion of the findings, you do not know what only the findings, but whatever findings you made, you are not sure to what extent that is correct or not. But today, as you know, that because of the number of theses are available, number of researches has already been conducted, then automatically, whatever the findings you are coming across or finding out, automatically you can verify the veracity or the authenticity of your findings. That's another important things that what you can do. So, if that is the case, then that is the reason for which I consider you as a fortunate enough as regards to research is concerned. But in spite of all that, research as on date, especially in the country like India, is not so qualitative, even though in quantitative form it seems to be good. Do you know what are the reasons? The reason is that we are research scholars. We are conducting research for degree. So the sole objectives behind any research activity carried out by a student, by a scholar, is how to get a degree or how to publish the papers. In this respect, I can simply remind you two things: games and service. A player, if at all he has to play good games, then automatically he will get a job. But if at all he plays for to get a job, then automatically what happens? Once he get a job, his game is over, his play is over, his talent is over. He forget it done. So please don't do that. Please don't do that. That is my request and my advice to all my dear participants who are participating. Second one, which one is very equal? What I believe that this research is not a big thing, and for which you are going to get a Nobel Prize or like that. Yes, that's true. You are focusing on a particular issue, and what you are going to do is that you are analyzing of your own and coming out with some solution or some findings which is something unique and different in comparison to others. So for that, what you need is that you need persistent endeavor, or you need, we say, continuous effort. Yes, it is a time matter. If at all you spend your 2 to 2.5 years continuously for 4 to 5 years a day, 4 5 hours a day, I am sure within 2 years you will be able to complete that PhD for which you are interested for. Similarly, the other things what you are supposed to do is that you have to show your commitment. You must be dedicated for the purpose. Many students during my career as a teacher, as a guide, I could able to produce some 21 PhD scholars, but many of the scholars they could not able to complete, even though they completed 5 years, 10 years of PhD registration. Do you know what is the reason for that? The reason is obvious. They are not committed. They are not dedicated for the cause and concern. Friends, what you do is that you should be very, very committed if at all you are interested to pursue PhD in for the degree. The other things I must tell is that when you go for PhD and when you go for selecting the topic that which is a very, very interesting one, the topic must be very lucrative. Topic very topic must be very crazy, and topic must be where I can say that will tell you the quest to know. That means when you go through the topic, you will able to know that what I am going to study. Then only that will be one of the best topic. But before selecting the topic, before going for the research, you must have. So there are certain factors you must have to in your mind. First one is your interest. Yes, your interest is much more important one, because that will consume your 2 years, and you may possibly come across with unforeseen problems while pursuing the PhD. You must have to be mentally ready for that. Then the magnitude. The magnitude of the area, the topic which you have to decide or which you have taken up, it must be, you must be in a position to that. It should be completed within the time frame, and within the, and it is at your disposal, and also the available resource what you have. It will take such a topic for which time period it will take a vast time, and resource available is not enough. Then again you will feel despair as I felt in long back in 1983, like that. Then other things I must have to remind you about the concept, about the level of expertise. Friends, don't think, never think, ever think that you are going to do something innovative for which, again I tell you, you are going to get Nobel Prize. Never. Whatever expertise you have in with you, think in that way to select that topic. And the other factors that you must have to put in your mind is a relevance of your topic. The topic must be socially relevant, economically relevant, and relevant for everybody. Maybe the commercialist, maybe the economist, and maybe the social scientist. And if you select that particular topic, then I'm sure this will be so helpful to you that everybody will acknowledge your outcome. Then the last one is about the data. Friends, never select a topic before finding out what are the data you need and whether those data are plentifully available in the market. Because the analysis what you are going to have and to be taught by Professor Das, Soumya Ranjan Das, that based on the data what you have collected. And whether, the major constraint of the social science is the availability of the data. And you must have to put in your mind that sufficient data is available in in the area in which you are going to have your degree or your research. Otherwise, you will be nowhere at the end of the day, and you will be virtually, you will make yourself puzzled. Other things, Robbie, how much time I can take? Another five minutes?
Nice, sir. Please conclude.
Okay. So friends, all this what I want to tell you is that it is up to you now to decide how you take off this resource of your own. Whether for a sake of taking research you are taking research, or because you are committed to conduct research you have come to this field. So with this, I can simply say I extend my heartfelt thanks to the association or All India Accounting Association Bhubaneswar branch, more specifically to Professor Ranjan and Professor Ravi for taking such an initiative for which there is a overwhelming response from different part of the country. Really, I felt happy to see that a number of participants are from different states and from different statutes too. Thank you very much. And once again, I welcome all of you and hope this will be very, very enjoyable to you and helpful in your future research life. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us regarding the research. And you enlightened some important points that what are the advantages are there with us in the present generation. So gratitude enough, sir, for sharing your experience with us. And now I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Ranjan Das, sir. Sir, please.
Yeah. So Miranjan sir, you can start your session, sir.
Okay. Okay, actually, can somebody take the responsibility to admit people because they
Yes,
keep
yes,
on coming. So now
yes,
it is
yes.
426.
Yes, we are doing that.
Okay. Okay. So good evening to all of you, and it is indeed a pleasure to be part of this initiative. And I can see the numbers 430 people have joined. As you keep on adding the extra numbers on the list, it creates extra pressure on me to justify the initiative that people have taken. Now, before I start, a few emotional things to share with you, and one is that Professor Ranjan Bala was there at the beginning. I think sir is still there. Bala sir,
Yes, he's not there in.
Yes,
Sir, he was
I
disconnected, so I am making him co-host
Sir
again,
is
sir.
there.
Sir is
Sir is
there.
in the
Sir is
line.
Sir, you can unmute yourself, sir. Ranjan, sir.
your name and my name Ranjan. In both the names, Ranjan is there. I am also present.
sir, first of all, please accept my gratitude. When I was a MCOM student, I went once to your office. I was not a direct student of Utkal University. I did my master's from SCS College. But during my MCOM, I went to your office once. And that was quite a moment to change the life, the discussions. And you may not remember, but you are also among the panelists when I cleared the Odisha Education Service junior lectureship interview. And that was my second meeting with you during the panel. And it is indeed a pleasure that I could see you today. And please accept my gratitude for that.
Thank you.
And among the few people in Odisha who has inspired the young generation, your name definitely will be something that this generation is supposed to get inspiration from. And I also thank Professor J.K. Parida to welcome me to this session. And Professor J.K. Parida was also highlighted a couple of things that is this generation should know in terms of the opportunities, what sir has highlighted. But there is also another side that you should understand. There is also huge risk. So every opportunity brings itself with some kind of risk also. The risk is that things are changing very fast, and unless and otherwise you do research, it's very difficult to sustain. For example, the kind of system I am into, if I am going to meet to my director for next promotion or next appraisal or any higher authority, the first question that is going to be asked is what kind of research you have done, because it is expected that or it is assumed that you should teach well because you have hired in a reputed institute. It is expected that you should contribute to the institute, but simultaneously, more important that what kind of research you are doing. So all the young generation, those who are doing their PhD, a long career is waiting in front of you. And those who are into the profession that you have already joined the jobs and now you want to did the PhD early, but now you want to do something more. This is a very important thing that you should learn, that research is something that is going to make or break the situation going forward in future. And that is one of the reasons that Indian universities don't rank in a very high ranking whenever you take any kind of global ranking for that matter. So, whenever this topic came to me regarding the panel data analysis, let me clarify some of the expectations first. If you went to the web and if you try to get the information, there are plenty of resources available. So when the Sakti approached me for this topic, I was not very sure that what I supposed to deliver to you as a tangible thing, so that you can take it forward and you can use it, because I'm not going to say anything new which is not available in the web, or it is not available in the internet or something. So I have taken my approach of discussing the things, and the topic is very vast. Each topic could be taken 5 or 6 sessions. So within 1 hour and half an hour or something, we are going to discuss a brief of panel data. So what I'm going to discuss is just the introduction part, and then you can take it forward from the various sources that is available to all of you. Now, before I start a few things, because it might take some time, so let me share these things first with you. So these are couple of files that I'm sending. I understand the resource constraint at various places. So that is the reason I have downloaded on my own, and I'm just sharing with you. These resources probably will be more insightful as compared to me, because I also learn by reading those resources. So these resources are with you now, and you can use it to understand much more in detail the panel data. Everybody can download it. I have shared in the chat box, right? Sakti, I think it is available to all, right? So now, before I start, let me share the screen with you. Well, I think my screen must be.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start so panel data. As I told you, it's very minuscule part that I'm going to talk today, and I will share some of the resources that you can freely use to know more about this particular topic. So very basic one is that we heard about different types of data. Last class, the topic was regarding the panel time series data, right? So panel data is otherwise called as longitudinal, temporal, cross-sectional, or cross-sectional time series data. The reason being, this helps you to integrate both the time effect and also the form effect in the data. That means what? I can estimate the form specific impact, and also simultaneously I can consider that how that form specific impact is changing over the time. So that is why it is called as what? A kind of longitudinal data which is having both time and form effect variations. The behavior of entities. So for example, this data is useful either you do a multi-country study, or you do individual state-specific study, or you do the individual company-specific, not individual, company-specific studies. So this data is useful in that particular context, and it has observed over several cross-sectional units over time. That means what? Cross-sectional units, for example, I want to talk about a simple question, that how leverage of a firm is affecting its profitability. So as per our accounting understanding, we know that there is some relationship of leverage with the profitability. Now, if I want to study that effect using a time series data, what is the problem? So yesterday there must be some discussions on the time series. Now let's take an example. If I will give you the leverage data for a particular company for over a particular period of time, and I will give its profitability data. So let's say 10 years or 15 years. And the problem is with the 10 years or 15 years of observation, I can't run a time series model to predict what is the impact of leverage on farm profitability. Second limitation is that the impact of leverage on profitability will be different if a farm is into the service sector or if a farm is into the real estate sector or the farm is into some kind of FMCG sector. That means what? There will be sector specific variation is also there in the research issue. Second issue is that if I want to study that, let's say there is a farm which is very young versus a farm which is pretty old. Young means it has started, somebody is drawing on the slide. Can you please control that? Because you can see.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, sorry to interrupt. Yes, sir, actually that setting can be done from your end. Sir, at the top, there must be one options, more options must be there. At the top, besides the screen annotate and participants and all that.
More.
Sir, at the top of the screen.
Go to the more section.
More will be there.
Yeah, more.
Yes, sir. There must be one thing, disable participant to annotate.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, you can clear those annotation by clicking on annotate and you can clear it from your side, sir.
I think
there above on the annotate, you can click on the annotate at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
There must be one clear all option. Delete has been icon must be there.
Now it is okay?
Yes.
Okay. So please.
Thank you, sir.
Don't. Okay. So I think I was talking about that if I'll be formulating a research question in terms of how the, let's say, ROA of the farm is getting affected with respect to the leverage. Let's say I have only one variable with me, that is my leverage. So if I'm doing this analysis in a time series data, there are a couple of problems. One is that with the limited of observations, how many years of data you can get? Let's say from 1994, the NAC is listed, so you'll get, let's say 18 to 20 years of observations. Or if you do the quarterly, it will be slightly more. But you can't run a time series regression in this particular context to understand what is the impact of the leverage on profitability. Second issue is that now the leverage of a farm is also related to a couple of other things. Let's say it is related to the industry. Let's say it is related to farm performance. Let's say it is also related to the years, that is the T. Now, while in a time series analysis, I can't play around with these variables because I can't control the industry effect here. I can't control the farm specific performance effect here. Neither I can control what is the time effect that I have. Time effect, to some extent, I can control because I'm dealing with the time series data. But issue is that with 18 or 20 observations, I can't run a time series model effectively. So I need another way of dealing with this kind of problem, and that actually gets resolved whenever I have something on a kind of data called as panel data, which gives me observations of several cross-sectional units over time. That means what? All the firms that I have, these are my cross-sectional variations, and it will have a time series effect as well. That means for a particular year, what is the variable and how the variable changes over a particular period of time. Second is that it helps to account individual heterogeneity. As one example I gave you, that one particular farm might be taking more profit, more leverage because it's a loss-making farm, right? The variable that change over time, but not across entities. That means what? It could also be due to some kind of macroeconomic policy effect that the firm is taking more leverage. Let's say the interest rates are very low, and that is the reason firm is taking more leverage. Now, if I'm doing a kind of time series data, these kind of problems I can't handle, because my observations are only be related to a kind of linear, let's say that it is profitability and it is leverage. So it helps me to actually look at the panel data as another alternative to understand that how the time effect, firm specific heterogeneity effect, cross-sectional heterogeneity effect would be managed whenever I am dealing with a particular kind of research problem. Now, what are the benefits that is available to me while dealing with the panel data? It offers following benefits: the identification of economic models and discrimination between competing economic hypotheses. For example, now I want to study, let's say I'm giving you some more example on this. Let's say I want to study that there is a relationship between leverage and profitability, fine. But simultaneously you asked me another question, that sir, can company level governance structure is helpful, which can actually moderate the effect of leverage on firm profitability. Now what you have, that each company level, you know that there is a governance structure. Now you have two hypotheses to handle. One hypothesis is that whether the leverage is having an effect on the firm profitability. The second hypothesis is that if there is a relationship between leverage and profitability, does it get moderated by the company level of governance structure? Now, time series data don't allows me to deal with that, and I have alternative hypothesis to test, right? So panel data in that context helps me because it allows you to have an interaction effect between the governance structure and also the leverage to see that whether it is affecting the profitability or not. Second thing is that the elimination or reduction of estimation bias and shortage of degrees of freedom. For example, when I was giving you the example of that leverage and profitability, the number of observations are only 18. Now, if I have a panel data, the number of observations is quite high. That means if I have 100 companies on 4 variables, then I have 400 observations. And 400 observations for 10 years, I have 4,000 observations, right? So that is the actually advantage of panel data, because it is giving you more degrees of freedom. Third is the reduction of problems of data multicollinearity. That means what? Multicollinearity is the problem when your independent variables are highly correlated with each other. Now, panel data allows you to moderate that effect also. So one of the advantages of the panel data is that it actually, since the variables are now going to change over the time and also over the company, that is the basic structure of a panel data. That allows that the multicollinearity problem will be get reduced to a large extent, and that actually helps me to understand that my data is don't have that kind of problem, multicollinearity. I will explain some of the tests also to deal with this multicollinearity problem. The greater capacity of modeling the complexity of human behavior than a single cross-section or time series data. What does it mean? The human behavior is that, for example, you want to say that there is an effect of leverage on profit. But I will put you another question. Does young managers take more leverage, or does senior managers take more leverage? Because our observation is that people, as they mature, their risk-taking ability also changes as compared to the young generation of the managers. So this variable of the age of the CEO, I can't model in a time series variable. Why? Because for a particular period of time, this variable is going to constant. So this variable is going to be a time invariant variable. So I can't model it in a time series model. So to do that, I need a model which is basically, I need to have a panel model where I can have firm specific CEO informations to model my information. And if you take 100 companies, then definitely it has a large sample and there is a variation within the sample. Next is, it helps to account for variations of the dependent variable and regressors. Overall variation, that is variation over time and individuals, variation between individuals, and within variation, that is variation within individuals. So if you compare a time series data and a panel data, it allows you to account for all the three forms of variation. That means variation over time and individuals. That means what? The leverage of firm A and the leverage of firm B are going to change. So that is basically variation over time and individuals. So that means what? It is keep on changing every year also, and it will be keep on changing from one firm to the other firm also. Between variation, that is variation between the individuals, that means it will give you the firm A versus firm B, and it allows you for capturing that variation. And within variation, that variation within the individuals, that means what? If I will be taking data for more number of companies, then over the particular year, then there is also a variation of the leverage effect from one year to other year. So a panel data allows you to capture this variation also. Panel data provides information on variables both across individuals and over time. I have explained that. They have both cross-sectional and time series dimensions. As I told you, cross-sectional means across the company variation, and time series means over the period of variation. Panel data contains more information, more variability, more efficiency than pure time series or cross-sectional data. I have explained it also by giving you the example of industry variation, by giving you the example of time variation, and by giving the example of firms within the same industry, but they also have a might have a choice for different leverage policies. Generating more accurate predictions of individual outcomes by pulling data rather than generating predictions of individual outcomes using data or individual questions. That I am telling you that it don't considers one company specific regression, right? Because it is trying to pull the data over a large sample and over a large period of time. If individual behaviors are similar, conditional on certain variables, panel data provide the possibility of learning an individual's behavior by observing the behavior of others. So that means it tells me by controlling the industry effect, it allows me to understand that which particular industry the leverage effect varies in what order, right? Thus, it is possible to obtain a more accurate description of an individual's behavior by supplementing observations of individual in question with data on other individuals, because you have a cross-sectional variation in the data. Now, let's look at one example, right? So then I'll go to the data, but now so we have summarized few theories. So now let's understand that what that theories I was trying to mean when I was talking to you. So you have a paper here. I will also share the paper with you all. So this paper is simple: economic policy uncertainty and corporate investment. That means what? Whether firm-specific investments vary when there is an economic policy level uncertainty exists in the economy, right? So this is the research question. Now, imagine this question from a very time series perspective. So in the time series perspective, what will happen? My economic policy uncertainty for the entire country remains the same, right? It don't changes from the firms. But the corporate investment of each firm is going to change from one firm to the other. Now, if I'm using a time series model, I can't estimate this particular research question, because how one variable is constant for all and the others are changing for each particular firm. Then how to understand that whether economic policy uncertainty is having an implication for my corporate investment decision? But as a researcher, it is intuitive to you to understand that economic policy uncertainty will have an implication on my corporate investment. Now let's look at what the paper is trying to tell you. You see, they summarize the first research question very simple. This paper studies how economic policy uncertainty influence corporate investment for Chinese listed firms. Simple question. But now, as I told you during the theory, that how the panel data helps you to address multiple research questions, right? One example I was giving you, that the interaction of governance with the leverage. Now let's look at this situation. We saw that when the degree of economic policy uncertainty is higher, firms tend to lower their investments. That means negative effect, correct? This is for the overall sample. But next question as a researcher comes to me, if it is true, then is it going to change when there is a change in company specific characteristics, because I know that each firm is going to different from one to the other. The next research question allows me to investigate further. What they are trying to say, that when the firm have return on invested capital higher and more internal finance are not state-owned companies, that means they are private companies, not public listed firms, they mitigate the negative effect of policy uncertainty. Now you see the beauty of a panel data. Now you have employing 3 firm characteristics level variables. One is that internal finance, one return on invested capital, that means higher profitability, and last one a characteristics which is also very different, whether it is a public sector company or it's a private sector company. Now this variable is having a very minimal variation. Can you imagine in India how many PSUs will be there? Let's say 20, but let's say 600s or 1600s are private companies. Now this particular variable is a very minimal variation. It is a very sticky variable. But since I am using a panel data, it allows me to address this question also, that the firm characteristics I can address, and simultaneously I can address the overall research question, that whether the economic policy uncertainty is affecting the firm level investment or not. Moreover, firms in regions with high degree of market capitalizations are more sensitive to economic policy uncertainty. That means what? If a firm is having high market cap, then economic policy uncertainty is impact will be very severe. Now, how many firm characteristics you are dealing with? You are dealing with profitability, you are dealing with internal finance, that means the retained earnings are very high, and you are also looking at the market cap. So 3 firm specific variables you are interested in while considering the broad research question, that whether the economic policy uncertainty will have an impact on the what? Corporate investment. Now, if I want to specify a simple model, now this model is directly from this particular paper, and I will go to the estimation part. Don't be impatient with the estimation, because my experience is that people spend more time on estimation rather than understanding the research problem. So if you don't have an understanding of the research problem, estimation doesn't make much difference. Now, you see the research model that we have. What we are trying to understand, that whether this is capital investments to total asset as the ratio, which is your corporate investment. And I am assuming that many of you are accounting professionals, so you are thorough with the variables. So I'm not going in detail. I'm just trying to touch upon the issues. So economic policy uncertainty is your major thrust variable, right? This is your main thrust variable, and you are taking some of the control variables here: Tobin's Q, cash, firm size, leverage, sales to total asset. Now, the time series data don't allows me to do that. Why? Because the capital, I am interested in which research question? I am interested to understand this research question. But a firm's investment in the tangible fixed assets are also going to depend on its size, on its leverage, on its sales. Now, unless I will control these variables, I can't estimate the impact of EPU on the corporate investment. Now, even though you will have 100 years of data of firm level data and you are running a time series regression, it is not going to give you an accurate answer to your research question, because the firm level corporate investment is also subject to be get influenced by the other variables. So a panel data allows me to have control effect on these variables as well. And these variables will be also allowed to vary in the cross section and will be also allowed to vary in the time frame. So I will have all the variables which are of both time and cross-sectional effect variation, and also the time series effect of the variation. Now you see, towards the end of the equation, they have added 2 more things. What is that? Have a look here. In this particular equation, in a normal equation, what you will observe, in a normal equation should end with this error term being here, correct? That was your time series models when you have estimated, correct? Or any simple model, OLS model that you are estimated. But what is the difference between the OLS and time series? This comes to the picture here. And let's look at this situation. What they have considered, year, that means this particular variable, is the year dummy, and quarter is the quarter dummy. That means what? The corporate investment is something which will also get affected as the time progresses, isn't it? You will be capex takes some time to be built up. Now, unless and otherwise I will control the time effect, my estimation will be biased, right? So I am considering the time effect to be get captured. Similarly, if you will be using quarterly data, you will be using the quarterly effect as the variable. Next, our estimations control for farm level fixed effects. That means what? This is one other important thing to understand. That means if you see this equation, it has a I component and it has a T component. I component is basically what you see here. The dependent variable is also having an I component and also a T component. That means what? There is a time effect is also there, and there is also a farm level effect is also there. So in a kind of panel model, it allows me to control both the things. It allows me to control the time effect. It also allows me to control the year effect as well. That means I can control the variation that is happening because of the time, and I can control the variation that is happening because of the farm level heterogeneity that is present. So what I am assuming in this particular model, that the alpha, the intercept here, you see the intercept don't have a T component. Intercept only have a I component. You see here, intercept don't have a T component. You see all variables are having T component. Intercept is only having the I component. What does it mean? That I am allowing the intercept to vary over time, over farm, and I am allowing the effect of my dummy variables in terms of the time. But the slope coefficients, that is the beta 1, beta 2, beta 3 and all, will remain constant. So now if I will summarize, what is a panel effect? The panel effect is that which allows the intercept to vary over farm, and it also controls the time variation because you are also including the time dummies here. It allows me a better estimation of my model characteristics. Whether it is fixed effect or random effect, I will come later on. Those don't go to those jargons. Try to understand what is the implication of a panel model. So a panel model is that it allows me to capture the heterogeneity that is coming based on the time and based on the farm level variation. So I am allowing my intercept to vary with farm, and I am controlling the time effect here while keeping my slope coefficients constant. That model allows me to control that model allows me to estimate the effect by using a panel data model. Is it okay now? Any questions? Feel free to ask. Yes.
Yes. No questions.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, after the end of your deliberation, then we'll have a question answer session.
Okay.
So you can continue your presentation, sir.
Okay. So actually, since it's a virtual mode, you can't see participants' eyes. Huh? So as you all are teachers, so eyes speaks actually more.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I don't know that whether I am speaking only in my office room alone or it is actually getting transmitted to the participants. So that was the issue.
Yes, sir. It can. Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is actually a basic example of a panel data situation. Why a panel data is helpful, how the panel data allows me to capture the different multiple research questions that I have, and how the panel data allows me to model the individual effects. The theory part I will come later on. Okay. Now, we'll try to see some data variations. Well, so what I have here, I have taken as hypothetical data. It's not hypothetical; it is related to some kind of research paper only, but it just allows you to tell you the story. So, what is basically a time variable, a panel variable for me? I think my Excel file is visible to all. Yeah. So, what basically this panel data means to me? So, what you see here is actually multiple countries that I have. So I have countries Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Brazil. So 50 countries data are here, and there is also sometimes pattern. So this is basically a daily stock return data. So the data starts from 3rd January 2020 and it ends somewhere around May. Now, this data is having some unique properties. What is that? It has a country level ID. So this is country 1. So gradually, if I will be keep on changing, I will be reaching the 5th country, 50th country as well. And it has a time dimension as well. That means it is actually controlling my this 1, 2, 3 is basically the time period that I have. So what I have the company country returns, their lag returns, some kind of policy variable, term spread, moving average, volatility, short-term interest rates. This is Argentina, so interest rates were quite high because the country is into crisis. Exchange rate, some fear variable, some panic variable, and some government responses variable. So this is a hypothetical data where I want to see that what kind of panic variables and sentiment variables affect the company returns, sorry, country returns. Now, if it is a time series data, my problem is that I have to run the regression, whether it is a causality or whether it is a co-integration or whether it is any kind of time series model for each particular country. But I will be never able to understand, let's say this fear is very important thing for me. I'm never able to understand how does this fear affects the overall sample whenever I am estimating a kind of overall sample of 50 countries data, right? So what we will use a simple data to understand this particular effect. So I'm taking you to my status screen now. All the researcher, one disclaimer to all of you, I'm using Stata because it is easily available to me and I have some prior experience on this. But those who are at various universities and trying to do their research, a very simple advice to all of you. Try to get hands-on based on your R software because it is freely available, right? And you don't need to have a kind of license from your institute to use that one. So my suggestion is that please use your R software to have a basic estimation. So this is the data I'm using because it is easily available to me and also I have some prior expertise. But you should learn R because it is freely available and you can easily do your research. Okay, so I'm going to data. I'm going to data editor. I think my data screen must be visible to all. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to take all my I can also do it from here instead of going to data editor. I can go to file, open. I can go to import file and I can go to so this is okay, so I have my data with me, so I can go to data editor to cross verify. So it is showing some problem in terms of the strings variable. Just give me a second because it is the moment you see it is red, it is actually telling you that it is actually string variable. So here the data that I have shown you in the Excel file. Okay, so this is the data from the Excel file I have imported here. You can see the return policy, term spread, volume, and so on and so forth. So this is the basic data. One of the important data is basically my return, and I want to see that how the return is getting affected. So please remember a couple of basic things in the Stata if you are using the Stata. Now, my screen is visible to all of you. Is it okay?
Yes, sir, it is clearly visible.
Right. So I have my data in my data editor, and now, so whenever you do any kind of Stata estimation, if you go to the file, there is log, go to the begin. Here, one advantage is that you can create a log file, which is basically a text file. So I'm doing my, can give it any name, panel name that I have given. So what happens, you see this file is getting saved. So the moment you want to go back and check your results once again, you don't have to copy and paste individually. It is going to be saved in your system as a single file with all the results. And the first step of estimating a panel model is that you go to the Stata, longitudinal panel data, go to the setup and utilities, go to the declare the data. So it will ask you what is your panel ID variable and time variable. So what is basically the panel ID variable? Now let's say I was giving you that example of EPU. So in that EPU, what is your panel ID variable? Panel ID variable is basically how, based on which variable the data changes. What is your panel ID? So panel ID for a company specific data will be your firms. Since I have a data from the country, so what is that? What is the variation that I have now? For each country, how the variation is happening. So in my panel ID variable, what is the panel ID variable now I have? Give me a moment. Sorry. So I told you the log file, so I'm creating once again because there's some problem in the Stata file. So I'm again creating it. So untitled, save it. There are some estimations previously done, so I'm directly going to just give me a moment. There's some problem with the Stata. Just give me a moment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm restarting it. So it is again log file. So I'm creating a log file now. So what is the advantage of that log file? That it will actually create a kind of separate information source for you without any hassle, that it will be directly giving you the log file that you want. Now in this panel data, you have to go to the panel. First you have to declare the data to be a panel data. So what is my panel ID variable? As I told you, the country specific variation is there. So my panel ID will be the country ID, and the time variable is the time that I have taken. So time is that daily data that I have. So your frequency is basically daily. So you click on this. So what it tells you on the screen is that your panel variable country ID strongly balanced. That means what? I have a data which is strongly balanced. Now for panel there are two things. One is it could be strongly balanced, and another one is it could be an unbalanced panel. So what is the difference between the two? The strongly balanced is that wherever for each panel ID your time variables are available for all the time periods. And if for your panel ID, the data will be not available for all the time periods, then it will be basically an unbalanced panel. Nowadays, there is no much difference that whether it is you should go for a balanced panel or unbalanced panel. For a panel unit root test, the balanced or unbalanced panel will create some kind of difference. But from the research point of view, you should go for your research question rather than whether it is I should take a balanced panel or unbalanced panel. In any way, it is be perfectly fine if your research question is intact enough. Now, I want to estimate a kind of panel model here. So, I declared the data set to be panel data. Now I want to if you want to check the summary statistics, for example, of your variable, it gives you that what kind of variation you have. For example, if you remember, I told you what is that command I use, xtsum, right? Xtsum is basically what? It gives you the entire variables in terms of the observations and the details that is available to you. Now, I told you that the data allows you to capture three kind of variation. That is overall variation, between variation, and within variation. Now, can you see that? It gives you that how the data changes for each particular variable, how the data is changing in terms of its overall variation, between variation, and within variation. And it also tells you that how many number of countries I told you, 50 countries, right? What is the time frame? 94. In total, how many observations I have? 4,700 observations. Now that is the benefit of using a panel data. So 50 countries, 94, and how do I get this 4,700? So 4,700 is basically your n into t, right? And the number of variables that you are interacting. So that gives you your total number of observations. So 50 into your 94, that gives you one part of the story, and the remaining part of the story is basically coming from the number of or different kind of variables that you have. So I have 4,700 in terms of my n into my t, that is 50 into 94. That gives me the enough degrees of freedom to play around with my data. And that is the advantage of the panel data. Now going for the estimation part of it. So we will summarize the estimation part first, and then we will go for the little bit theory on this particular issue. So I have linear regression here. So what is the linear regression you have is that what kind of different models I could estimate. So you could have fixed effect and you could have random effect. Now I will explain in theory what you mean by fixed effect and what you mean by random effect. So instead of going into theory into detail, let me first summarize what are the estimation techniques and all, and then I will go to the theory. So first of all, you have to understand what is there between a fixed and a random. Why those names are there. Now, if you are assuming from a very simpler form of, if I'm trying to say, if you are assuming that there is no unobservable effect left in my model. So the basic model that I was showing you in terms of that EPU, was basically how the corporate investment is getting affected by the EPU and all. In that model, I am essentially assume that there is no unobservable or random events which are affecting my model. Hence, the model that precisely they have estimated is a fixed effect model. But if there is a chance there are some parameters which are left out and you are sure that they are going to affect the variations of your coefficients, then that model is supposed to be estimated using the random effect model. That is basically the simplest explanation that whether I should use a fixed effect model or a random effect model. But here we will try to see that how to do that. So the dependent variable here is my return, and my independent variables I am taking is basically what? LRET, policy, uh, uh, some policy variable I am taking term spread, I am taking moving average, I am taking volatility, I am taking short-term interest rate, I am taking exchange rate, and I am taking fears. So these are the variables I am taking into account. Now this data will give you an option, the fixed effect. So if I'll be estimating the fixed effect here, it will automatically take into account what? It will be automatically take into account both time and firm fixed effect, right? And I have to check that whether I should use the fixed effect or the random effect. I will come to that later on. So first, how to do that in case of a regression? So first you estimate the fixed effect model. So here I have my fixed effect model. The first statistics that I should check that whether the probability is significant or not. That actually tells you that whether your model is significantly placed or not, whether your model is appropriate or not. So this basically takes into account what? It takes into account my fixed effect, including both. Please remember, it includes both time effect and also the firm effect. Now, as you might have always heard that there is a fixed effect and there is a random effect. So how to know that whether the fixed effect model I should take or the random effect model I should take? To do that, what you have to do is that once you estimate the fixed effect, then the next stata command, I should store all the fixed effect model estimated values. So I have to, can somebody manage this waiting room, because people are keep on coming and actually it is popping up on the screen. Huh? Okay. So yes. then you estimate the command is what? Estimate store fixed. That means all my fixed estimated variables has been stored and saved. Then I will be estimating what? The same model I will be estimating in terms of the random effect. So I will be going panel data, linear models. So what you have here? The random effect, right? So I am estimating the same model using a random effect. Now you see the regression remains the same. The only thing that is changed is from fixed to random. Now, since I need to compare that whether I will take a fixed effect or whether I will take a random effect, I have to also save the random. So basically you have to again retype the command estimate store random. So the moment you click on estimate store random, now you have both the things together with you, the fixed effect model estimates and also the random effect model estimates. Now I should know that whether I should use the fixed effect model or whether I should use the random effect model. To do that, what I have to do, I have to test whether that assumption that I have taken, that there are no unobservable variable which is actually affecting my model parameters in terms of the coefficients and in terms of the intercepts. So what is the assumption in the fixed effect? That the intercepts will vary with respect to the form, but the time effect will remain the time effect will be captured and the intercept will be allowed to vary with the level of the funk. Now, if I'm assuming that there is no unobserved variable which could affect this assumption, then I have to rely on the fixed effect and I should not consider the random effect model. To do that, what I have to do first, that I have stored the estimates of the fixed, I have stored the estimates of the random, correct? Now I have to do what? There is something called as Haussmann test, which actually tells you that whether you should take the fixed effect or the random effect model. So the Haussmann test that you should do is basically here, that I can play around with the Haussmann test to understand, is that Haussmann fixed random. So Haussmann test, you see what is the null? Difference in coefficients not systematic. That means what? If this Haussmann test statistics is significant, then you have to reject the null, right? And you have to accept the alternative. Now, from the stata point of view, forget about the theory, just look at the stata point of view. What the stata tells you, that null is difference in coefficients is not systematic. That means what? Alternative will be what? Difference in coefficient is systematic. Difference in coefficient in systematic means what? The variables that I have considered in my fixed effect model is sufficient enough to capture anything else, right? That means the observed pattern is to some extent fixed within my estimated data sample, and there is no random thing that I have, there is no other variables which is actually left out, which could have an implication on my model. So the Haussmann test implication is that if the Haussmann test is coming around to be significant, that indicates that I should reject the null and I should accept the alternative. So alternative is basically what? The difference in coefficients are systematic. That means all the variables that I have taken is explaining my dependent variable systematically, and there is no unobserved variable or there is no random things that I have been left out. So this estimation results tells me that I should prefer the fixed effect model as compared to what? The random effect model. So till this point in time, it tells you that whether you should go for fixed or whether you should go for the random. Now, the random effect model should be also compared that whether I should use the simple OLS model or I should use the random effect model, right? That also we should get some clarity on that. That whether I should take the fixed effect or whether I should OLS and the random effect. One thing you should know that once you have estimated the Haussmann test, things are more clear in the sense that whether I should take a fixed effect model or an random effect model. So, but there are some variables that I should, some test I should do, which is basically your Lagrange multiplier test. The Lagrange multiplier test will tell me that whether OLS or the fixed effect, whether the OLS or the random effect model could be interchanged among themselves. So give me a moment. So once you estimate the random effect model, then you can also test, since the random effect data is saved with me. So this random effect, once you have the random effect, you can also test the Buchs-Lagrange multiplier test for the random effects. This could be done also from the command menu. So for example, if I have longitudinal panel data, then you have linear models, then you have Lagrange multiplier test for the random effect. So if you estimate that, you see the parameters are exactly the same that I used with this command, xt set 0, or you can directly estimate it using the command menu. If this variable is your significant, what does it tells you? That the um, random effect model is not necessarily random effect if this is significant, it is going to tell you that random effect model could be used as compared to OLS. But your Haussmann test will tell you that the fixed effect model is more appropriate as compared to the Lagrange, as compared to the random effect model. So what is the sequence so far we have discussed? Sequence is straightforward, that first I have to set up the data as the panel data. Then I have to test the fixed effect model. First I have to estimate, let's say, the fixed effect model, then the random effect model, then the Haussmann test to understand that whether I should take the fixed or the random effect model. Once that part is clear, if you want to further give the statistics, because the moment you have chosen fixed effect, no need to give the Lagrange multiplier test. But some papers, it is also people also report this particular variable. So this variable, you have to do what? You have to again estimate the Lagrange multiplier test to highlight that instead of simple OLS, the random is good, but my Haussmann test tells me that I should take the panel model as the fixed effect model to have my results intact. So this is basically a very simplest way of telling you that how to estimate the fixed effect model, random effect model. And whenever you are estimating, so as per this discussion, what we have, as per this discussion, we have that we will be choosing the fixed effect model, correct? So let's say I'm estimating my fixed effect model, but this model don't use the robust standard errors, and there could be problem of the heteroscedasticity that is present in the data. So to avoid that heteroscedasticity in the data, what you have to consider? You have to consider robust standard errors. So basically, if you go to the command menu and you go to the linear model that you have estimated, so in that linear model window, you see it has given you standard errors robust. So if you click on standard error robust, it will give you my robust standard errors. It could also give me cluster robust standard errors. So cluster robust standard errors, what? It actually multiplies the time dummies with the firm specific dummies that you have created. So that will give you a clustered robust standard errors. So either you take robust standard errors or you take clustered robust standard errors. So sometimes paper mention that it is clustered. Sometimes they will simply mention that it is robust. So if I'll take the robust standard errors, you see what is the difference. Earlier, this particular variable lag arity, this was simple fixed effect, and this is what your robust estimation. Now, what is the difference? Why papers always ask you to report robust standard errors? There is a reason. You see, earlier my lag RET, that means lag value of the return, my dependent variable is in this case is the return. And since if you say fear means what? Let's say investors are very fearful. So if investors are very fearful, there is a panic in the market and return will go down, correct? So ideally what I will expect my coefficient negative, it is there. Now, if you take let's say LRET or the fear. Now, you see the coefficient in this case and the t statistics. Here the t statistics is minus 5.21 and p values is, it is 1% label significance. But if you see here the robust standard errors, you see the t value minus 2.01 and your p value also declined. That means the type 1, type 2 error in terms of rejecting the null, it is more stringent if I am using a robust standard errors as compared to the simple standard errors that you will see. So if somebody is reporting this model without a robust standard errors, first of all, you should know that there will be some heteroscedasticity in the data, and robust standard errors actually helps to mitigate that problem. Now take the example of this fear coefficient. This fear coefficient T is how much? minus 29.14. Now have a look here. My economic significance remains the same. The coefficient is still loading negative, right? Because that is the logic of my economic implication of my variable, that if there is a panic in the market, return will go down. Or else, in that example, EPU and corporate investment, if economic policy uncertainty will go up, investment will go down. So that is your economic interpretation of your variable, that whether the variable should load positive or negative. That is comes from the theory. But the magnitude actually then takes you that whether I am going to approve the hypothesis or I am going to reject the hypothesis. Now, there the statistical significance is very important. Not only my sign, but also the statistical significance. But the moment you see the robust, you see the variable now. Earlier it was minus 29.14. Now it is what? Minus 18.93. The significance remains the same. But now I can safely claim that fear is having an important implication on my return, right? So that is basically the implication of your estimating the give me a second. I have estimated okay, so I should estimate the fixed effect model. So I have estimated the fixed effect. Let me do it once again. It will not change the theory, but suddenly the coefficient that I was showing you will change. So linear model fixed effect, because my selection was on random effect. So this is fixed effect, simple default standard errors. So minus 29 and this one. Now I am estimating what? I am estimating the robust standard error. So here the robust, yeah. So you see fears 18.92, right? Earlier I have estimated a random effect model. That was my mistake. But now I have a fixed effect model. So please be sensitive to one thing, that whether it is fixed effect or random effect, you can always estimate the robust standard errors, and you should estimate the robust standard errors always. So this is actually my and the static model is highly significant and also my robust, and it tells me that with the robust standard errors, it is not actually hampering my model specifications. And I could use also the cluster as well. So in case of cluster, so my cluster is in terms of country, and it gives me my cluster is based on what? Country ID. So country ID means in case of a farm specific data, it will be farm ID based. So just give me a moment. I could also show you that particular thing. In some papers, I don't have a paper right now to show you, but there are some papers which will also ask you to show you the clustered standard errors. So this effect also allows you to capture the cluster standard errors. So these are the basic sequence of estimating a panel model to understand that whether the panel model is sufficient enough in terms of fixed effect or whether it's supposed to be random effect, and so on and so forth. Now, whatever the discussions I had with you now, so I will take you to some of the more examples. So this estimation is fine, but we should also see it how the things are happening from the research point of view. So now I'm taking you to some examples to show you on that. Okay, please pay attention here. So what is this? This is the one paper example directly I'm giving you so that you could understand what we have discussed so far, how it is going to get captured whenever we talk about a real time paper. So this is investment opportunities, corporate finance, and dividend payout policy. Yeah? So if I go to the chat box, so I have shared the paper with you directly, right? And now paper is in the chat box. So this example is directly taken from this paper. So this is a paper on some studies in economics and finance journal, which talks about investment opportunities, corporate finance, and dividend payout policy. Now, the purpose of this paper is to investigate the effect of investment opportunities on corporate finance and dividend payout policy. So what is this paper is trying to tell you? This paper is trying to tell you is that we estimate the following panel data regression model. So what is the basic model that they have? The basic model that they have, my PPT is visible to all?
Yes, no, sir.
Okay, give me a moment.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the paper I have shared with you on the chat box. You can later on have a look on this. So investment opportunities, corporate finance, and dividend payout policy. So this paper tells me what? This paper, we estimate the following data regression model. I and T basically gives you an indication that there is a cross-sectional effect, right? Because it could vary across firm and also time. I and T represent the country and time respectively. Y is the measure of dividend payout. So that is basically your dependent variable. Investment is the measure of investment opportunity set. Fin are the measures of the corporate finance variables. What are the control variables, corporate finance variables they have taken? Firm leverage, external finance, debt maturity, and so on and so forth. X, pay attention. X are the control variables and include profitability, risk, stock market capitalization, inflation, GDP per capita, and so on and so forth. So this is basically your control variables. So this is your main explanatory variable. This is your fin is basically measures of corporate finance. X is basically your control variables. Now what you have this UIT, yeah, or EIT, basically the error term that basically common in every model. U is the error term. Using this model, it is possible to investigate the effect of investment opportunity set, corporate finance, and dividend policy. This is basically when a basic master's level student estimates a regression model or an MCOM student estimates a regression model. The regression model is supposed to look like this way. Simple regression model, right?
Right.
Now we have to understand this. What is this implication of this UIT? Because this is one thing that is going to change the entire discussion that whenever we move on to the panel data model. So let's look at this. This study adopts a panel data model given that it allows for broader set of data points. Therefore, degrees of freedoms have increased and collinearity among the explanatory variables is reduced. If you recall back the first slide, whenever I was talking about the advantage of panel data, all this paper is trying to tell you the summary of that how the panel data is helpful over the other data that we use. Now, the panel regression equation differs from the regular time series or cross-sectional regressions by double subscripts attached to each variable. That means it has a I and also a T, right? The general form of the model can be written as what? So if I summarize the equation 1, how it will be? It will be very simpler like this. YIT is a function of x variable and an error term. This x variable, I could have this investment, finance, and all the control variables. So this is basically a simpler equation. I is basically the firms, T is basically the time period. Now, where alpha is a scalar, beta and x are the ith observation and k explanatory variables. We assume that UIT follows a one-way error component model. So what is that UIT you are assuming? UIT is for UIT, this error term is having two effects. One is coming from the firm and one is coming from the time. So if we break this UIT, it has two components now. What is this? UI and VIT. So that means one is coming from the firm and one is coming from both firm and time. Now let's understand it. Where mu I is the time invariant and account for any unobservable individual specific effects that is not included in the regression model. That means what? UI is the time invariant. First of all, why time invariant? Because there is no T, yeah? It is only I. You check, you see this. It is time invariant and accounts for any unobservable individual specific effect that is not included in the regression model. For example, I am talking about firm's effect. In this model, I have not captured the location of the headquarter of the firm. Now, location of a headquarter of a firm in Bhubaneswar and the headquarter of the firm in Bombay gives it very different recognition in terms of access to the capital market also, right? Do you have captured that effect in our model? No. So that means what? It is a firm specific. See, it is time invariant. Once you have a headquarter, it is not going to change, but it is going to change for each company. So this is a time invariant, but firm specific, there could be a variation. That's why it is mu I. Now, this is one component which is not there in my model. And what we are talking about, we are trying to break down the error term into two components, right? Now, it is not included in the regression model. The term VIT represents the remaining disturbance and variance with individual countries and time. That means what? It has a time variation component also. That means my dividend policy could also depend on the time. A mature firm will pay dividend as compared to a younger firm, correct? So there is a time component also attached to it. So first error term component is only capturing the time invariant time invariant effect, and the second component is capturing both time and firm specific variables. It can be thought of as an usual disturbance in the regression. You see, VIT looks very similar to your UIT. Isn't it?
Yes,
it looks very similar. The choice of the model estimation, whether the random effect or fixed effect, will depend on the underlying assumptions, what we have discussed in that simple regression model. In a random effect, mu I and Vi are random with known disturbances. Right? They are random variables which has been there, and we are assuming that our model will be not able to capture that. In the fixed effects model, the mu I are assumed to be fixed parameter to be estimated, and the remainder disturbances stochastic with VIT independent and identically distributed. That is, it is normally IID 0. The explanatory variable XIT are assumed to be dependent on the VIT for all I and T. It is in which case? It is in the fixed effect model case. We use the Haussmann specification test in choosing the appropriate model, that whether we should take the fixed effect model or whether we should take the random effect model. Now, can you see the difference? That the entire assumption that whether I should use a fixed effect model or whether I should use a random effect model is dependent on what is my basic assumption regarding the error term that I am considering. If they are non-stochastic, that means they are random in essentially, then I am going to use a random effect model. But if I'm assuming that they are going to be constant in the error term, then I'm going to use the fixed effect model. But in a statistical way, what should tell me that whether I should use a fixed effect model or a random effect model is basically my reliability in terms of what? My Haussmann test. So basically what Haussmann test tells you, to decide between the fixed or random effect model, you can run a Haussmann test, which the null hypothesis is that the preferred model is random effects versus the alternative is the fixed effect. So if once you reject the null, then basically you are choosing what? A fixed effect model. Further, it basically tests whether the unique errors, UI, you see this one, which is basically time invariant, are correlated with the regressors. The null hypothesis is they are not. It is assumed that EI or UI and the regressors are uncorrelated, then REM may be appropriate, but if they are correlated, then FEM may be appropriate. That means what? If you are assuming that the unobservable effects are getting captured in my model, then the fixed effect is more reliable. And if you are assuming that it is not getting captured, then basically it is random effect model that you are going to choose. Which test can tell me this all about this is basically the Haussmann test that I am going to perform. So as I told you in the data, run a fixed effect model, save the estimates, then run a random effect model, save the estimate, then perform the test. It will tell you that whether it's a chi-square test, it will tell you that whether I should use the fixed effect model or I should use the what? Random effect model. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's take another example. So the theory part that I was talking about, that whether I should take fixed effect or random effect, I'll spend Sakti, how much time I have?
Yes, sir. You can continue. Yes.
I can continue, but again I have to. You guys are at home, but I have to go home. So.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So. Let's take this example and then I will go to the theory. So I'm not talking much from the theory point of view because it will be available in all the sources. So what we have here, effect of working capital management on SME profitability. Okay. So before I go there, so this is the paper. So I have shared the paper on the chat box. So basically they are having a sample for the, my PPT is visible now, right?
Yes, sir.
So what is the objective of this paper? Objective of is to provide empirical evidence on the effect of working capital management on profitability of a sample of small and medium-sized Spanish firms. So basically, what is the, you have a basic observation that you have is basically what? The dependent variable will be the profitability, right? And my independent variables will be basically what? Independent variables will be all related to working capital. So as you accounting guys, you know that working capital will basically come from three sources, right? Account receivables, inventory turnover, accounts payable, and your cash conversion cycle. So that is basically the three variables that determine your working capital. Either account receivable turnover or accounts payable turnover or inventory turnover, or taking all the three, I can have my cash conversion cycle. So this is my main variable that is going to explain my profitability. Along with that, what I have farm size, sales growth, debt, and I have GDP growth rate also as one of my variables. So this is my basic model, right? So CCC is basically your cash conversion cycle, size is company size, sales growth, and so on and so forth. Now, this methodology presents input and benefits. That means which methodology? The panel specification that we are using here. This includes the fact that panel data models assumes that individual farms, states, or countries are heterogeneous. Time series and cross-sectional data studies not controlling for this heterogeneity. So this is basically what the first slide of the advantage of the panel data that I was discussing. Estimating models from the panel data requires the research first to determine whether there is a correlation between the unobservable heterogeneity of each farm and explanatory variables of the model. So what is basically your, you see here, one is basically your I and one is basically your T. This is basically, if you recall back our previous papers example. Why I am giving you multiple papers example? Because each paper will admit the model in a very different way, right? So you have, one is that farm specific variation and one is basically your time specific variation. In that model, they don't have given any error term because they have clubbed these two coefficients together. So there is only one error term in that particular model. So before estimating the panel data model, you have to answer that whether there is a correlation between the unobservable heterogeneity I of each farm and the explanatory variable of the model. If there is a correlation, then there is a fixed effect. You remember when I was in the previous slide, I was talking about when I should take a fixed effect model versus a random effect model. If there is a correlation, then fixed effect model, it would be possible to obtain the consistent estimation by means within the group estimator. Otherwise, a random effect model will be more appropriate. How to know that? We have to perform the Haussmann test, normal strategy, to determine that whether the fixed effect or random effect, we have to test the Haussmann test. Now, if you recall back my previous point of discussion regarding this fixed or random, if there is a correlation, then fixed effect. If otherwise, the random effect. What does it mean? I am going my previous slide again. You look at here. It basically tests whether the unique error UI are correlated with the regressors. The null hypothesis is that they are not. It is assumed that if the error term and the regressors are uncorrelated, then REM, but if they are correlated, then fixed effect. Can you see the same thing repeated here? If the error term is correlated, then you check you are going by the fixed effect model. If error terms are not correlated, then you are going by basically what? The random effect model. So that is basically tells you that whether I should go by a fixed effect model or I should go by a random effect model. Now, I have also taken in this case the example from this paper in terms of its table. So in case of when you are reading a paper, for example, you have what is your account receivable, inventory turnover, account payable, and cash conversion cycle. So basically all are giving me negative coefficients. That means that higher working capital actually kills the profitability. That is basically our theory, right? Now, these are the control variables. But if you see the Haussmann test, what it tells you, the Haussmann test is highly significant. That means what? I will be preferring a fixed effect model as compared to a random effect model. So if null hypothesis is rejected, only within group estimators is consistent. If accepted, random effect model. So if you are accepting the null, then you go for the random effect. If you are rejecting the null, then you are going for the fixed effect. So what we have discussed in that data with some data, I'm just trying to give you some examples from the papers. Quickly, I will finish it. Then I can take a couple of questions and we'll round it up. the relationship between capital structure and ownership. Huh? My request to all of you is that please read these papers, because majority of their model specification I have discussed. So you can read and understand those papers very well now. My request to all of you is that please read these papers, because majority of their model specification. So since the model specification has been discussed here, now it is easy for you to understand the paper, and I have intentionally taken very simple papers. So those who are actually starting off, it is very easy to understand, and gradually you can pick up any higher level papers that you want. Huh? So this paper I just shared in the chat box now. The relationship between capital structure and ownership structure. The study aims to investigate the comparatively under-researched relationship between ownership structure and capital structure in an emerging market. So basically your dependent variable is basically what? Leverage, and your independent variables are basically what? The leverage effect that you have. So basically the debt equity. Now you see here the methodology. Now I will just explain the methodology again. The generally accepted theoretical causal relationship and empirical modeling of capital structure, ownership structure that have been appeared in the literature are that both structures share approximately the same set of causal variables. However, it may be argued that the determinants of ownership structure are subset of the determinants of the capital structure. So they want to investigate that particular aspect. Okay. In addition, the study investigates the relationship between capital structure and ownership structure using both pooled and panel regression analysis. So what is, you see the basic regression difference now you can understand. YIT is a function of XIT, simple model, pooled model. Next, YIT alpha I, you see alpha here, no change, no subscript here. What alpha is you have here is that alpha IT, which is basically a time varying, form specific variation of my intercept. What you have now? Fixed effect model. The moment I am going to random effect model, what I have? You see, in the fixed effect model, this is your time and form effect, and this is your only form effect. In the random effect model, what is happening? Alpha becomes without any subscript. But you have now one is related to form, one is related to form and time. If you see the three examples, if you relate, it is actually now giving you an idea that how they formulate the equations. What is the difference between a fixed model and what is the difference between a
Random.
random effect model? And then they try to explain their variables here, and they try to say that fixed asset market to book is your residual error term I and year T, right? So this basically gives you an idea that how the models are played with in terms of the fixed and random effect model. And of course, if you read this paper, they are again going to Hausman test to know that whether fixed effect model is supposed to be taken or the random effect model is supposed to be taken. Okay, I think uh, So this will be last set of my example. Then we will. Okay, I have shared this paper with the chat box. Farm specific and economic wide determinants of farm profitability. So this will be my last example in terms of model discussion, and then we will. So the purpose of this paper is to examine the determinants of profitability of a sample of big non-financial firms listed in the Athens stock market. So basically, what is the title tells you? Farm specific and economic wide determinants of farm profitability. That means your dependent variable is going to be what? Your profitability, right? My screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's look at it. The use of panel data provides a powerful research instrument providing the results that could not be estimated by the individual study, right? So this is basically the advantage part. The static model used to analyze profitability of a farm, look at it. Very simple equation. YIT is the profitability, beta I xit is basically your variables and your UIT. So I basically 1 to n, these are basically the companies. This is the time. YIT is the profitability measure of farm I in year T. K is vector of coefficient and so forth. Equation 1, that is this one, the depending on the underlying assumptions can be estimated either using a simple model with the pooled OLS or with the fixed intercept and apply the ordinary least square model, or using the fixed or random effect model, since more than one factors may contribute in the determination of the farm profitability. Therefore, making the simple model not fully specified. That means this model is something that is not fully specified. So what is that? We allow the intercept to vary across farms and or time by estimating the equation 2. So what is the advantage of equation 2? You see, this is not changing. What you have extra here, you have Fi, you have T, and you have error term. Fi is the farm effect assumed to be constant from farm I over time t. That's why there is no t here. In other equations, it was actually written as intercepts in some of the cases, right? So this is basically your farm fixed effect. Tt is the time effect assumed to be constant for a given t over I. That means what? It is only coming from the time specific effect. And ui is the error term. You are in this paper, they have estimated all the three models. So which one to choose, how to decide again? Basically, whether you will be taking a fixed effect or a random effect. If you assume that these estimations are correlated with your regressors, then you are going to take a fixed effect model. If you are assuming that they are not correlated, then you are going to take a random effect model. Okay, so this is the basic tenet of the theory. So I've shown you that I thought that some examples will help you. So that was the idea, to take some examples. And now I quickly go to one slide and I will conclude the discussions because I am exceeding the time. The papers I have shared with you, they are easy papers, easy to understand, and they will clear basic discussion that has happened in this class. So I'm quickly So Sakti, can I share the slide also?
Yes, sir. If you want,
Sir,
you
you
can.
can share the slide.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I can do that. I will share the slide while closing the discussion. I may not be able to pick up all the things here, but okay. So quickly, what we have discussed so far, quickly to summarize and then continue. The fixed effect model, the fixed effect model are a class of static models in which the labels, that is the values of the independent variables, are assumed to be fixed, and only the independent variables change in response to the labels of the independent variables. That means a key advantage of fixed effect model design is that important labels of all independent variables can be purposefully investigated. This is in contrast to the random effect model and mixed model, in which all or some of the model parameters are random variables. That means they are not correlated. If there are no omitted variables, or if you believe that the omitted variables are uncorrelated with the explanatory variable that are in the model, uncorrelated, then random effect model is best. It will produce unbiased estimates of the coefficients, use all the data available, and produce the smallest standard errors. If the omitted variables, that means you are taking an error term, means you are assuming there are some omitted variables, and these variables are correlated with the variables in the model, that means your independent variables, then fixed effect models may provide a means for controlling the omitted variable bias. In a fixed effect model, subjects serve as their own controls. The idea is that whatever effect the omitted variables have on the subjects at one time, they will also have the same effect at a later time. Hence, their effect will be constant or fixed. And that is why the name comes as what? Fixed effect model. However, in order to do this to be true, the omitted variables must have time invariant values with time invariant effects. That means what? If you recall back, whenever I was writing as UIT, only UI, that means this is a omitted variable which is not having any time subscript attached to it, right? Thus, in a fixed effect model, random variables are treated as though they were non-random or fixed. That means the omitted variables are correlated with the regressors. For example, in regression analysis, fixed effect regression fixes holds constant the average effect of whatever variables you think might affect the outcome of your analysis. That means that is why the name is called as fixed effect model, because it assumes that it is actually helps you to understand that what is the effect of those omitted variables in the model and what is your assumption behind it. That basically defines that whether I will be taking a fixed effect model or I will be taking a what? Random effect model for that matter, right? And so these are the theories. Then um, these are the models. I have not gone to those equations because I thought that you guys will be feeling boring, but the slide it is there. Equation of the fixed effect model, equation of the fixed effect model with time. You see the time, and also you have the farm effect. And you can also see that I have here also the random effect model, which is having one UI and EIT. That means one variable is basically your what? One is changing with time and one is not changing with time. But that is what basic assumption is basically your whether you should take a fixed effect model or whether you should take a random effect model. So I'll try to share quickly the slide. So Shakti, it's over to you now. So whatever I could possibly briefly tell to all of you, this is the story. There, of course, could be a better way to tell this story also, but given the time and given the my expertise also, not whatever I could explain to you, I have tried to explain this in that way.
Thank you, sir. Very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So Sakti, it's over to you now. I'm done. If anyone wants to ask to some questions, quickly you can ask, and then we will conclude it.
Thank you so very much. Gratitude enough from Indian Accounting Association Bhubaneswar branch. Really, you have elaborated all the things from the root, and we believe that our participants have enjoyed the session a lot. And as we all know that because of time constraint, we are unable to give you some more time, or else we could have given you a lot of time for the discussion, and that kind of patience is already there with our audience. So thank you
People
so
might
much, sir.
get disappointed also for that. That more time will not always result into good. But Sakti, when I want to share now, why can't I share the PPT?
Sir, if you try, or else you can mail me. We can share all the participant to in the. We have a Telegram group, and we can say the registered participant.
Okay. So, okay.
Sir, with your permission, we would like to take a few questions with permission, sir.
Yeah, questions, please.
So we have a lot of questions, fact, but I'd like to take 2-3 questions. So the first question for you, sir. In which situation panel unit route is required?
So panel unit route you can do in general also. If you want any panel model you are estimating, you can do the panel unit route test, and it could be also be helpful whenever you have. Okay, before I just answer your question, I'm sharing some resources related to the panel. So these are the some of the links for you guys. So before you sign out and it all goes away, my suggestion is that you keep opening this with your systems. Then you can later on you can check, because all these websites will give you very free information, and it will be helpful for you to keep learning more, not just this one. So I'm typing all these links very quickly, and before I forget, so my suggestion is that please copy those links and please keep it with you. So Sakti, there are a couple of URLs. You can also copy and email them, or
Yes,
else.
sir,
Okay. So before sir, to answer your question is that panel unit route test is more required whenever you want to do a kind of panel bar or panel co-integration kind of thing. But there is no harm if you are also doing a panel regression and you want to do a panel unit route test. So it is actually more informative. You can report that, no issue. But don't just report statistics for the sake of statistics, or we can estimate it. You think that if it is related to the research question, then only report it. Look at some of the papers who are actually reporting it for that purpose, right? Then panel unit route is required. And panel unit rate tests also differ for balanced and unbalanced panel also. So whenever you check those statistics, all statistics are not applicable to all kind of data. So, but it should be more aligned with your question of that you are investigating rather than just for the sake of estimating something. Right?
Okay, thank you so much. We'll take one more question. Can we use industry dummy in fixed effect model?
Yes, you can. In fact, I think my PPT is visible, right?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
So the first equation that I was showing, you see here, they mentioned that, however, we also rerun the main regression with industry dummies added. After controlling the industry effect, the regression result remains unchanged. So, but you should not end up doing a farm effect and industry effect together. So farm effect will give you a different insight, industry effect will give you a different insight. So some papers they do all the three, farm, time and also industry. And in some papers it is purely industry. So for example, if your data is only from the manufacturing sector, based on your research question, there is no need to do an industry effect check. But if your sample is quite large across various industries, then probably an industry fixed effect will be required.
Thank you so very much, sir, enlightening our audience and clearing their doubts from the root level. So as you know that it is time constraint. So now I would like to hand over the session to Satyaran Das to carry from here.
So
Thank you
Sakti,
so very much, everyone.
Sakti, Ranjan sir is still there?
Yes, sir. I will check. Ranjan sir was there right now. Himanshu, Ranjan sir is there. I am not able to find him.
I think he left.
Sir was there. Sir was there just a few minutes ago. I checked. Right now, maybe sir has left. Yes, sir.
Okay, no issue. Okay. Any other questions, participants? You can unmute yourself and ask me. Already I have exceeded the time. Anyway, I am going to get scolded at home. But if you have some question, you can ask me.
Yes. Sir, there may be a lot of questions, but we'll conclude that because we value your time also. So, namaskar and good evening to all of you. So, we are revered and most respected teacher, Professor Ranjan Kumar Balsa, the President, IA Bhubaneswar branch. Professor Joint Kumar Parida, sir, former President of Indian Commerce Association. And today's resource person, revered Professor Somnaranjan Das, sir, from IIM Indore. The man behind this workshop, Professor Ravindra Kumar Swain, sir, General Secretary, IA Bhubaneswar branch. Mr. Munna Sahu, Assistant Professor, DSB in Bhubaneswar and coordinator of the today's session. All the distinguished life members and participants and all my friends. Now we are at the end of this 2 days workshop on time series and panel analysis. And before concluding this session, I want to quote a beautiful line. Am I audible? Yes, sir.
Yeah, audible.
Okay, sir. So there is a beautiful line, sir. Before whatever I mentioned, is that audible?
Yeah, audible.
Yes, sir. So there is a beautiful line I want to quote here before I concluding the session. That everything has a two sides. One is possibility and other is negativity. And we all should feel happy that we all choose possibility over the negativity in this pandemic. And it's a great thing that more than 500 participants and we all united at a common time for a common purpose, that is your learning. And I think this is a great achievement. And though it is a great achievement, it's not an effort of one, it's a effort and a contribution of a lot of persons. So in this regard, I want to show our gratitude and respect to all the persons who have contributed to make this event feasible and successful. So on behalf of Indian Accounting Association, Bhubaneswar branch, and on my own behalf, first of all, I want to express our deep sense of gratitude, Professor Ranjan Kumar Balsa, the President of Indian Accounting Association, for his constant inspiration and guidance. Really, sir, you are the source of inspiration to all of us, and your guidance always helping us to move ahead. Thank you, sir, for your presence and your support. I also place on record our indebtedness to Professor Joint Kumar Palda, sir, who is always considered as a great motivator, advisor, and a true inspiring personality. Thank you, sir, for your motivating words, particularly in the inaugural session. And thank you for your kind presence. Now, really, I have no words. And if I say that thank you is a very small word to offer the person who really make the session uh, insightful and value enriching. Yes, I'm talking about Professor Soumyaranjan Das, sir. And I want to express my heartfelt obligation to the Professor Soumyaranjan Das, sir. Sir, with your busy schedule and a lot of other commitment, you readily agreed with us our invitation and unconditionally support us and share your knowledge to us. With your small duration of deliberation, you again prove that it's not the quantity rather than the quality matter the most. And with your deliberation, I think, so for my part is concerned, I feel the same thing is happened in all the participant also. We have simplified a lot of confusion regarding the panel data, whether it is a within variation or between variation, whether it is a fixed effect or time effect. You have simplified, and the most interesting part is that you have shared the material as well as you have given how we can read the paper itself. So that's the best thing I have ever seen in the other seminars also. So I want to express my deep sense of gratitude as well as I know that you are not a person by just for sake of doing, you are doing everything. So you are the person of passion. So teaching your passion, and apart from your great, you are a great teacher. I know that you are a great human being. I think the kind of humility you have, the kind of dedication you have, really not only inspiration for me, but also inspiration to all the participants, to all the person who have connected this event. So once again, thank you, sir, for giving your valuable time to accept our request and giving so much hard work to explain all the things. Thank you once again, and thank you. At the same
Thank
time,
you.
thank you, sir. I also same time also express our deep sense of gratitude, Professor Manoj Kumar Das, sir, who was a resource person yesterday's or the today's session. Sir has explained the time series. So once again, thank you, sir, for your presence. I think sir is also here. So thank you, sir. And I also thank you, the person who took the initiative to make this, to organize such event is our beloved General Secretary of IA Bhubaneswar branch. He is Professor Rabindra Kumar Swain, sir. And sir has worked selflessly and with day and night how to organize this event, how in this pandemic, with the minimal cost, how we can contribute to the education. And really, sir, your noble thought and your sincere effort matters a lot. And whatever we are organizing, it is only because of your support, guidance, and your inspiration. Thank you, sir. I also want to thank you, Mr. Munna Sahu, who is working as assistant professor in DSP in Bhubaneswar. Thank you, Munna sir, for coordinating the entire session and making it more smooth. And I also express my heartfelt thanks to all the life members for their active participation and as well as cooperation and make this Indian Accounting Association Bhubaneswar branch more vibrant. Last but not least, I offer my sincere thanks to all the participants, and particularly special thanks goes to all the core team member who work behind the scene. I want to mention their name like Mr. Bamdev Misra sir from PN Autonomous College, Mr. Maheshwara Sethi sir from Barampur University, Ms. Ranjita Naik from NC Autonomous College, Mr. Chandrika Prasad Das sir from Kalikot University, Mr. Munna Sahu from DSB in Bhubaneswar, Mr. Himanshu Agrawal from KIIT University Bhubaneswar. So once again, thank you all for your patient listening and cooperating with us. Your participation really is the success. If the resource person has take that rigor to share their knowledge with you, if we are taking the initiative to make that event, it's only because of you and your huge number of participation. And I have read anyone can read the number of charts in the chart box. They have mentioned that shows their remarks, shows that how you are satisfied. So once again, I thank you all of you for your kind cooperation and uh, your great contribution to this making this event successful. So I will wish all of you are safe and stay tuned with IIF Bhubaneswar branch. Thank you. Namaskar all. So here we end our session formally, and we are going to leave your meeting. If you have any query and regarding the material, we will maybe some issues in chat. So we'll share all the material which sir has shared to us in your register mail ID or in the Telegram group which I created in order to make you more make you free from the communication barrier. Thank you a lot. Good evening to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Shakti. Thank you, Ravindra sir. So Ravindra sir is invisible. Huh?
Yes, sir is there, but maybe some network issue. Sir,
Okay.
Raining sir said that sir is not currently fluctuating.
I think Professor Manoj is also there.
So thank you, Samaranjan Das, for giving your beautiful lecture on the topic. I think I missed sometimes for 30 or 40 minutes. I had some work, but thank you very much for coming and sharing your experience, knowledge with all of us and participants. And I also thank Manoj Das. He took a session yesterday on time series data analysis. Both of you are fantastic. So hopefully in future we'll meet and physically we'll invite you to Utkal University. Both of you will be invited to Utkal University Banibihar with the Department of Commerce. So our students will be benefited by that. Thank you very much to both of you and all the participants. Shakti also there. So thank you very much. We'll see you.
Somaranjan sir, namaskar. Somaranjan sir, namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar.
मिसी पाउनी 4-5 थर गले नहीं मिसी पाउनी 5 थर गले नहीं आपण आईएम को
हाँ सर आपण ईपीजीपी रे आस्तिले पढाया पे मु देखि छी आपनकर डिजिटल मार्केटिंग रे बदे आपण पढो
2015 रु जाउती कंटिन्यू जाउती 6 वर्ष हेलानी कि तुम आपण मिस पारलिनी के बेबी थरे भी एतले गले मिस
एतर का आस्तिले देखा हो सर जाओ भलो मते सबट बड़ खुशी लागुची जे ओडिसा रे हम बेले तो किछि नथिला एटलिस्ट आमे किछि करि परछु निज कैपेसिटी रे सेटा गोटे खुशी रो जिंस द्वितीय कथा होची से माने चेष्टा करूचंती एटा करिया पई कहिना एटा कोन की गोटे पर्सनल इनिशिएटिव लोकंकर निज खुशी रो समान करूचंती पोटेंशियल बहुत पिलांकर अछि किंतु समस्या होची जे पिला आइदर जानि नांती जे केमिति रिसर्च प्रॉब्लम का आइडेंटिफाई करिवो
वतन डेवलप होची सर वतन डेवलप हो गई
हां ये जनरेशन नकले भी तिष्टि परिबे नि सर मार्केट
ना बहुत डेवलप है ओडिसा बहुत डेवलप है
अरे हम बेले तो किछि नथिला एटलीस्ट खुशी लागुची जे सर मान इनिशिएटिव नै करूचंती रविंद्र सर को धन्यवाद
thank you it is a collective effort and it has been there hopefully young generation 21st century generation students will come forward voluntarily to learn research as well as teaching so that
रविंद्र सर गोटे काम करंतु ये ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म रो गोटे फायदा नियंतु से हमर 2-3 टा खंडे जर्नल अछि बड़ जर्नल नहंती आईएमटी गाजियाबाद रो अछि हमर एमडीए गुरगांव रो अछि आईएमआई दिल्ली रो अछि माने सब सेज पेज रे अछंती माने खराब जर्नल नहंती डिसेंट रिव्यू प्रोसेस मो सजेशन होची तांको कनेक्ट करे देबी से माने भी कॉन्फ्रेंस रे पैनल हवा पे राजी है गोटे स्पेशल इशू भली है कि आपण गोटे चेष्टा करंतु गोटे किछि एमती कॉन्फ्रेंस एरिया करिया पे जतरी कि हम ओडिसा छुआंकर पेपर पब्लिश हे परियो एटलीस्ट साने स्टार्ट करंतु ई जर्नल भविष्य रे बड़ी बड़ जगह रे छापी ताको कैरियर पे भी सुविधा आ ए सब जर्नल ले जेतु के काहक ना काहक मनुष्य जानि छी ताको रिक्वेस्ट करे कि कॉन्फ्रेंस कानी हम हमकर आपण चेष्टा करंतु ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म रे खर्च कम
we are doing that in last 1 month we have been organizing international webinar national webinar
नहीं आपण कॉन्फ्रेंस पे भावंतु सर
So we'll do that, not instantly we'll do, but we'll plan and do it. There is no.
Conference at least publication ପାଇଁ ସୁବିଧା ହଉଛି।
Yeah. So our students are publishing article in Scopus Index Journal and many others, but not many. Those who are privileged being in university particularly.
ସେ ତ ସାର୍ ସେଇଟା ହଉଛି ନା ଯେ ୟୁନିଭର୍ସିଟି ଯେ ଗୋଟେ କଲେଜରେ ଅଛି ତାକୁ ୟୁନିଭର୍ସିଟିର ସୁବିଧା ମିଳୁନି, ଯେ ୟୁନିଭର୍ସିଟିରେ ଅଛି ତାକୁ ଆଇଆଇଟିର ସୁବିଧା ମିଳୁନି। ଆଟଲିଷ୍ଟ ଆମେ କିଛି କରିପାରିବା ତାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ସେ ପ୍ରିଭିଲେଜଟା ନାହିଁ।
Right, we'll do that, and we'll take help of those who will come voluntarily to help in organizing such things. And you are one of them, and Manoj Das sir is also there. We'll take help, and we'll find out to explore many other people who are really rich in their research and teaching, learning, but we are not able to identify them. If you come from voluntarily, I think the students and research scholars and young teachers will grow in future. There is no problem. So with that purpose, Indian Accounting Association, particularly Odisha branch, is trying to promote research and education in research, accounting and finance. The whole purpose of Indian Accounting Association is to promote education and research in accounting and finance. So we are just taking one step at a time. Hopefully, you are young, and I think from IIM brand and our students physical, when they will meet you, they will get inspired, and that inspiration, Dhoni, do you know Dhoni is being appreciated by everybody. So reason is he has left a footprint in Indian cricket. So we think about that. So I think people like you, Manoj sir, if you do those type of things, I think that will give a lot of inspiration to all the students. I hope so.
I'm not young, sir. This is the thanks to this.
You are young. Baba sir has not become old. That is why you are young.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. Jauchi Gaurav.
Thank you everybody. Good night. Prabira. Yes. Unmute ya.
ଆଜ୍ଞା
କେମିତି ଅଛୁ?
ଭଲ
ଥିଲୁ ତ ପୁରା ନା ଏମିତି ଲାଷ୍ଟ କୁ ଆସିଲୁ?
ପୁରା ଥିଲି।
Okay, thank you, but next time try to organize webinar in your college or nearby college.
ମୁଁ already proposal ତ ଦେଇ ସାରିଛି, ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ ଡେଟ୍ କହିଲେ ମୋର କିଛି ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ନାହିଁ।
Okay, we'll discuss on 21st August. We have a general body meeting.
ଠିକ ଅଛି ଆଜ୍ଞା।
Okay, so we'll inform you all at 8 PM. Okay. Okay, thank you. Maheshwari is there and other people are there. Thank you everybody. Good night. We'll see you.
Good night.
Okay.